In today's incredible story, we dive deep into the life of Ollie Ollerton, a man who has seen it all: special forces missions, personal battles, and even a terrifying encounter with a chimpanzee.
Because of traumatic event at 10, I don't have any memory prior to 10.
So you kind of blocked it all out?
Yeah, I think it's because it was so traumatic. It's like the rest is a blur beyond 10. It's almost like my life started at 10 years old.
Yeah. And that trauma at 10 was you nearly get killed by a chimp?
Yeah.
How's that come about?
Yeah, it's a good question, Burton on Trent. It's not in a jungle somewhere. It's like, it was, the circus had turned up come into town that day. We were going out for a swim. I was 10 years old, brother and his best mate. And then, the circus had turned up just between sort of our house and the swimming baths. Circus had pulled up in town. So we were drawn to that, kids, for God's sake. And straight away we asked, can we have a look around? They were like, yeah, help yourselves. There was no health and safety in 1980.
Born and raised in a small English town, Ollie always had a thirst for adventure. This drive led him to the Special Boat Service, an elite unit of the UK Special Forces, where he faced danger head-on in some of the world's most volatile war zones.
And before I knew it, I was in the big top, and I kind of lost my brother and his best mate, and I was drawn to this gap in the side of the other side of this tent. And I went over to it, opened it, the sun hit me in the eyes, blurred my vision for a couple of minutes. And as it cleared, I saw something in front of me that was just out of this world, and that was a baby chimp. And I was in love with Tarzan. You know what I mean? I was brought up with Tarzan. I think I'd been watching it that day anyway. I watched it every day, summer holidays. And in front of me, that was like a woman seeing George Clooney naked. It was my little piece of Hollywood. You know what I mean? It was Cheetah. Cheetah was there, and I was like drawn to this creature. And I went over, before I knew it, I was stood over it, looked down, and this little creature then looked up at me, beautiful brown eyes. And it sounds weird, but we connected. And then it started picking food off the floor. So it's passing this food up to me, and I just thought, fucking, I'm not having that, it's disgusting. So I was like chucking it over my shoulder. And then it seemed like a lifetime that was going on. And then all of a sudden, that serenity of that moment was broken like a fighter jet cutting through the skies. I heard this roar, and I looked in the background. We were in this sort of open area, but it was enclosed with trucks and stuff like that. And there was movement in the shadows. And the shadows very quickly turned from shadows into what was clearly mummy or daddy. It was about 60 kilogram. I didn't get a fucking chance to weigh it, but it was fucking big. You know what I mean? Stop on saying, let me weigh it. Let me just weigh you before you attack me. And this thing's coming at me Mach 10, and I'm thinking, fuck, I'm like a deer in the headlights. You know what I mean? I'm like, I was brought up with cats and dogs. This is a roaring fucking grown chimp coming at me Mach 10. It's going mental. And then this thing, just at the point I'm thinking I need to get out of the way, make a run for it, this thing pounces through the air.
From covert operations in the Middle East to extracting hostages under extreme conditions, Ollie's life was a high-stakes game of survival and strategy. But what makes his story truly unique is not just his time in combat. It's the resilience he showed outside the battlefield. At the age of 10, Ollie was attacked by a chimpanzee while on a trip in Africa, an experience that left physical scars, but also shaped his mental fortitude.
And it was almost like the blue sky turned to black as this thing landed on my chest, pinned me to the floor, and it's just going fucking mental. The first fist came down, knocked all the wind out of me, second fist, third fist, and then next thing, his teeth started coming into me, like biting away. And I can remember looking up at this chimp sat on my chest. There was blood, in its teeth. It wasn't the chimp's blood, it was my blood. And I thought, I could see my life flashing in front of me. I was only 10, it didn't take long. And it was in that moment that I knew I had to do something, otherwise I was going to die. And it was in that moment that fight or flight, and or freeze. And I managed to dislodge the chimp slightly, and I got a knee up to my chest and managed to kick the thing off me. And then that gave me a few seconds, and I managed to scurry out of there. And then the chimp got to its feet, and it came at me Mach 10 for the final attack. And honestly, it was like like you see in the films, it was like that far away from me, and the chain caught it. And in that moment, the whole place erupted. But for me, and that's why I talk about that moment so much, because there's a few things in that. First of all, childhood trauma is the worst. One of the worst traumas you can have. Secondly, that was my first breakpoint, and that's the reason you sat here. This is the Breakpoint Academy. You've got the chimp to thank.
And that's what your first book's about, Breakpoint.
Yeah, well, the first book is about breakpoint. It's about the theory of breakpoint. The theory of breakpoint is that to achieve anything in life, you have to take short-term discomfort for long-term gain. For me, on that day, short-term discomfort was taking a fight to a chimp, and the long-term gain was me living. And that's the thing, when I use that as an analogy for life.
This near-death encounter taught him the value of staying calm under pressure, a skill that served him well during his military career. After leaving the forces, Ollie didn't slow down. He turned his focus to helping others, using his military background to train individuals to conquer their fears and overcome obstacles. Today, he's a celebrated author, a motivational speaker, and a familiar face from the hit show SAS, Who Dares Win.
We're wired to take short-term comfort, whether it's drink, drugs, relationships, work, everything. We're wired to take the shortcut, but that leads to long-term pain. The more shortcuts we take, and the more easy comforts we take, it leads to a life of pretty much next to nothing. And you have to know that to change anything in life, to achieve anything, then you must cross that bridge of short-term discomfort. And you have to have that link to a goal, and there's a whole process. But that was my first break point. And also the fact, it taught me at a young age that regardless of your situation, you have choices.
Mm-hmm. Before that experience, till then after it, is this what shaped you your whole life? Did you become more insecure, paranoid, angry, or did you become more into your shell?
No, mate.
Did it change you completely?
The first, I was angry. I was a troubled little kid after that. It set me on a path of destruction. It's like hindsight's a wonderful thing, but it never won any wars. You know what I mean? We can sit back and reflect now, but then you don't know at the time, because when you have trauma like that, you lock away that intimate trauma. It's like a survival technique, inner survival technique to get you through the short term. So you lock away the intimate trauma, but that intimate trauma needs to be dealt with at some point. If you don't deal with it, it sticks with you for the rest of your life. And for me, looking back, I then understand that really did change the path of my life. And I was an angry little kid, got into a lot of trouble with the police, ended up on remand at one point, and that was a turning point for me. That was like, and I thought everyone was like, he's going to end up in prison for the rest of his life.
So people were kind of labelling you then.
But behind the public persona lies a man shaped by both triumph and trauma, always pushing himself to the limits. Thank you for joining us in uncovering the inspiring and extraordinary life of Ollie Ollerton. From the battlefields of war to surviving a chimpanzee attack, his story reminds us of the power of perseverance and the strength of the human spirit. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that educate, inspire, and captivate. Until next time, stay curious and stay brave.